So thanks for everyone for coming along tonight to our areas focus meeting for you guys, Otago, Southland. For you in the room that don't know me, I'm Lizzie Turnbull, CEO of New Zealand Pony Club, based in Katikati in the Bay of Plenty. As well as being currently in this role, I have had my own pony club journey as a rider and then as a mum. So I've been the branch president, the DC of my club, and on my area committee. We did step away from Pony Club. My child was older. She keeps on kind of coming back to Pony Club because she's 24, and been with New Zealand Pony Club for 2 years. Loving the time here. And joining me tonight, I have got a couple of board members. So I've got Todd.
Hi everyone. So I'm Todd Walken on the board. I'm not from a pony club background. I'm a horse dad who's been dragged into this, trying to pull back from courtesy of my wife and daughters, who are very much into the whole pony club scene. My background is in accounting and law, which is probably one of the reasons that the Constitution and its process landed on my lap for a lot of the drafting and initial work. And so I'm here tonight to support Lizzie and to provide a bit more of a context around the legal framework that's coming in and why we're doing what we're doing.
Excellent. Thanks, Todd. Also, we've got Kelly, who...
Hey everyone. I know a few of you. I see there's a few around from Otago and Clyde as well as further south. So Clyde is my branch. I'm head coach there, and obviously I've got 2 young riders there attending.
Thanks, Kelly. And we've got Dana.
Hi everybody. I'm located in Hamilton in the Waikato region. Been a rider and been to the Pony Club, and yeah, mum of a Pony Club daughter, and enjoying my time learning about the board and meeting all you guys.
And I think also on here we've got Tony.
Kia ora, most of you know me. I'm up at Waikato Pony Club at the moment, part of Tari District, and been involved with Pony Club for a long time, both up in the North Island and more recently down in the South Island.
Thank you. Because we've got such a big group tonight, we won't be going around and introducing ourselves, but if the first time you talk, if you put your hand up in question, maybe just add your name so we know who you are. Later on, as we get through the slides, when we're looking at your area, I will ask if there's if there are any clubs or branches that aren't online with us tonight. So I'm just going to share my screen and we will get started. Should I just have a confirmation that you've got a blue screen in front of you?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you. So as I said earlier, we are in our May Constitution area focus meetings. I think you are number 8 or 9. I've lost count, maybe number 9. Out of our 15 areas. You're most welcome to join any of them. This one is focusing on your area alone. We have had people from other areas joining in, just making sure that they're getting the same or getting an increased understanding. So our purpose of our meetings is tonight, our aim is to recap on the proposed structural review of becoming a 3-layer organisation along with updating of our constitution. We will be discussing with you tonight what your area may look like under the proposal of a 3-layer organisation versus a 4-layer organisation. We would share with you if a change in structure was voted on by our members at the National AGM. And we also share the process and timeline for updating constitutions as per the Incorporated Societies Act. We are definitely in the consultation phase, those 2 words. We're needing to get feedback from all our members from all our branches, all our clubs, all our areas and our committees. It's invited and welcomed. So there is a feedback survey that we'll share the link with you. And it's just great to have it in that link because it's all there together. You're most welcome to send emails as well. But in the survey, it's all contained in one place and I can't misplace anything. Our feedback deadline is the end of May. And we'll go through the timeline of why soon. All your feedback and anything to do with the whole constitution for the incorporated societies and a 3-layer structure or a 4-layer structure will help shape the final version that you are presented for AGM conference. This is definitely not a rubber stamp exercise. Taking place in August. So, just some key points in there. So, when we were looking at introduction webinars, Kelly and I were working really close together, and we felt that we needed area focus things, really to look at moving beyond an abstract idea, because at New Zealand Pony Club, there is not one area that is the same out of all 15. They are completely different. Some have similarities, and completely differently. So we'd really like to show you how a proposed structural review could look if we were if we removed one layer of Pony Club alongside updating the institution at the same time. We know it's difficult to vote on something that feels conceptual, so it's to help us look at the day-to-day operation. It's to look at the decision-making authorities, the event coordination, the events, communication reporting lines, and how we at the National Office would support volunteers and members in updating our constitution. So that is the rationale and purpose of this session. To Todd for the slide.
So why this and why now? Well, as a board, we did discuss whether or not it was worthwhile putting out a big change document, knowing that we'd have to go through the constitution review. And so this later on us, we have to update our constitution too. We have to refresh and redo it. We thought, let's be ambitious and at the same time address some of the concerns that members have been raising to us. That we have too many committees in this organisation. With the changing membership, we have too many layers. And what can we do to simplify? So we put out some proposals, because without having a proposal, nobody can actually just ask people's opinions. We don't really know where to start. So the whole purpose of this document is to give everyone somewhere to start with this discussion. So what is it? The Constitution is the governing document for the entire organisation. So it outlines the powers of the procedures that the board follow. It outlines how members are determined, how votes are made, and how what decisions can be made and how those decisions are going to be made. The Constitution is for the national body. It is not the area club branch constitution, but the concepts will filter down. And the main change that we've got here around the layers, that massive change we've got around the layers, needs to be decided on here so that can be filtered down into the next layers of constitutions. This is a governing document, so it sits across the entire organisation, which means it's not the detailed rules and regs, policies and procedures. It doesn't detail how events are run, and it doesn't detail how we run the clubs, how we make deal with a lot of those sorts of niggly details. Those will all need to be reviewed as well as part of this review. And indeed, if anybody here has attended an area forum, they'll know that every year we've got requests to review the rules and regulations, particularly around events. So this was our opportunity to go, you know what? let's be ambitious with this. Let's think really blue sky and find a way that we can address a lot of the changes that members have been asking for and get that ball rolling without slowly sort of sitting there and tweaking away and not really achieving anything like it has happened over the last 10 years based on the feedback we've been getting from our members. They feel like we're not responding to their changes fast enough, and a lot of it is because the structure we have doesn't allow us to respond. So this constitution review, this was our thought out there to go out to everyone to go, hey, let's think blue sky, let's think out of the box on this one and go, what could we do? How could we do this? And put it out there and see what the members come back. It's not the final version. So your feedback is going to change it. And it's good. And so I encourage you to feedback to us stuff that you don't like, things you're concerned with, or potential changes and ideas that you have that might expand or be different to what we've put in here. Because as a board, we're meeting in June to discuss it, and we'd be really keen to have that information on the table to allow us to get a really good view of what our members actually want this organisation to look like.
Thanks, Todd. And during this time, if you've got any questions, you're most welcome to raise your hand and then we'll take questions. For us, the big thing is for Pony Club, of course, our aims are to make Pony Club thriving. We want to see Pony Club with more or the same amount of kids or more at events, at rallies, achieving, getting their certificates, getting their NQSs. We want to see committees being full. We want to see people that have putting their hands up to take roles and jobs. That's our whole aim of Pony Club, no matter what the structural layers are of Pony Club. So moving on. So if you came to the earlier the introduction webinars, we talked about the timeline of our change. And as you can see, we've got some little keynotes at the top of it. So we'll go through this. So we're in May now, and in May, this is our consultation phase. And this is beginning the discussion for if we went to a 3-layer structure. So if we were changing from a 3-layer structure for Pony Club, what would that look like for your area? And as it says up there, this is full consultation. It's really important. We've got a survey and for feedback, and for our 5th of June board meeting, which Todd mentioned just a moment ago, we will be looking at the feedback and what it's telling us. Does the membership support a 3-layer system change, or does the membership wish to remain with the current layers? And that is really important, because at that meeting, the discussion around the table for the board is, what does the constitution that you're going to be presented look like? Is it a 3-layer constitution or is it a 4-layer constitution? This is so important because in July, around the 1st, we have to send out to you with all the AGM's information, the draft constitution, because we need you to talk about it. And that is what you're going to be voting on on the 3rd of August. So if there are things, not just the layers, but and you want to see change, you have suggestions, we need all that feedback, because at the 3rd of August, you are going to be voting on the package deal constitution that we put out on the 1st of July. So if our membership is saying, we actually don't agree with your disputes process, we need to know about it then, because that whole vote on the 3rd of August is around the constitution as it currently is. So if you're not sure what those changes are, at the end of the session, we'll be going to the website and I'll show you the slides that in the first webinars that really showed the changes of the constitution from we've got now to what we're going to. Now, Todd, we're often asked, why didn't we do a markup change view of this of our last constitution to this constitution?
And there's the quite simple answer in there is that we couldn't. there were no clauses that nicely moved across, and we were pretty much rewriting each clause by clause to make sure it complied with the requirements of the Act. So the easiest way for us to present this was, and considering we wanted to not incur excessive cost by getting a lawyer to rewrite our existing constitution, and recognizing that our board is made up of volunteers and we only have 2 and a bit FTE sitting in the head office, we decided the best thing for us to do was to utilize the Sport NZ templates, which have been confirmed to comply with the new Act, and adjust those to meet the requirements of the NZ, the Pony Club, rather than go and try and build something ourselves and mark it up when everything was so different.
So one of the big changes, isn't it, Todd, that we haven't gone deeply into, is that currently the number of members is going to change. It's going to reduce in the new constitution that you're required to have.
Yeah, so there are a number of changes that you see in there. One of them is for an incorporated society to set up. The old Act required 15 members, the new Act requires 10. Now, we've got a lot of discussions that we need to have as to what is a member, and how do we define those. But we are looking now, it is going to be only 10 members that are needed to start up a club. Now, that big change that we're looking at, and this is in line with the Sport NZ policy and the stuff that we're talking tonight, is around standardising that terminology. And that was one of our pushes of not so much getting rid of branches, they're still incorporated societies, but renaming them all. So that's the club level, and that club level is the lowest level. So it's more of a rebranding than a removal. We are not cancelling branches, we're not getting rid of them. We are rebranding them to clubs, because that's how parents, that's how kids refer to it. I'm a member of this club, and I'm the soccer club, I'm the tennis club, I'm the pony club. And we wanted to make sure that we were similar on that one, and it simplified our messaging into our community.
Thank you. So that's our timeline up to the 3rd of August. So we really need that feedback, because as I said, in July, you will be presented with a constitution that reflects what the membership is telling us through the survey. We need to hear from all our members, so it's not just a club vote or an area vote or a branch vote. We just want to know what our members think, and that's actually a confidential survey for us to gauge, but I'll show you that later on. The areas get 1 vote, get 1 vote, up to the writing member numbers. Now, that to be an SGM, it's like SGM coming up for national, you just need to have your motion at your normal meeting. And of course, the clubs, you'd be voting on based on what your branches are telling you, and the area, of course, you're voting on what your clubs are telling you. So the 3rd of August at the it will be submitted to the Incorporated Societies Act. And because we haven't made massive changes to the Sports NZ template, it should just be a simple process. Immediately, I know that we're presenting, I know that Todd will start writing the layers underneath. So it'll be a slow process. If it's a 3-layer structure, there'll be workshops at the AGM and a lot of work in August and September to get that finalised of what it looks like. October through to March is those SGMs to approve club and intermediate layers. So if it's 4-layer, it'll be branch, club and area. If it's a 3-layer, whatever that looks like. And there is one thing here, they will be submitted to NZPCA just to ensure that there's no massive changes, because remember, constitutions are only changeable by board approval. And the biggest one that you probably all know about is when you ask to reduce your quorum and you have to get board approval, and then it's able to be changed. We don't imagine that there'll be any quorum reductions in its first year, because it needs to actually go to the Incorporated Society with its 10 members. So if we actually change structure, we've had a lot of questions about when would that happen. It's been suggested that there'd be a nationwide change day, kind of like Gypsy Day, and everything would change on that day if that structure came into place. And of course, no matter what constitution, there will be support documents and checklists from NZPCA. We will be there helping you out. Are there any questions on that timeline?
Just one thing that I want to add on here. At the June further working through the Constitution, we will then be able to plan the part that is most important to our members, which is what do our comps look like, what do our recs look like. So the idea we'll be able to get all of your feedback, we'll be able to put that into a document, know where the organisation is heading, and at the AGM be able to provide you, or in July when things are getting sent out, provide you with an updated timeframe of what we expect the next steps of competitions and reviews for teams and all of that sort of stuff to happen and to look like.
Can I just say, yes, of course, a summary of the survey will be shared. So a summary of the results will be shared with our membership. And in future, can't get to it right now, we will have all our survey results on there, like our annual plan survey from last year. If you did the annual plan survey last year, you did get a copy of the response. It was all presented. We also do an exit survey, which is a little bit harder to present. We do that every 6 months. Anyone that's left Pony Club, they get invited to do an exit survey. Okay, if there's no questions, I'll move on to the more exciting stuff.
Just again, reiterating, raise your hand if you've got a question, or you can enter something into the chat. We'll be monitoring that and responding to those as we move forward. And all of the questions, if you are asking them, they'll be available as part of our summary at the end of the meeting as well.
Okay, so our current layers of Pony Club, we have 15 areas, 87 clubs, which are mixed between being clubs with branches underneath, and there are 138 branches underneath some of those clubs, some of those 87 clubs, and then we've got clubs without branches. And we've used actually Otago Southland because Kelly and I worked on this in Bay of Plenty, and so in this instance, 4-layer structure would be NZPCA, Otago Southland being the area, Central Otago being the club, and Clyde being the branch. Or over here in the Bay of Plenty, we've got New Zealand Pony Club, Bay of Plenty as the area, and Te Poki as a club in its own rights. So I'll get you to do that, Todd. So currently in New Zealand Pony Club, you can see there, that's what we look like. We have 15 areas, and as we said earlier, it's definitely not a one size fits all, and it's definitely no area is the same, as in the space it takes up geographically, or the membership numbers, or how they are currently organised.
Just while we're here, just on Charlotte's question, there's already a provision for 3-layer system under existing structures, i.e. clubs without branches, absolutely, but there is also clubs with branches. And what our members are telling us is that what they're doing and what they're seeing is that they're the president of the branch, they're also on the district committee, and then they're also on the area committee, which means for 3 weeks out of every 4, they're in a committee meeting. And they're often doing the same sorts of stuff, and they're repeating themselves. They're not adding value to the organisation. And they've said what we'd like to do is actually just remove a layer of admin. Now, with that, we have a 3-layer system, and we have NZPCA, area, and club. Some areas are saying, actually, when we've been talking about these hubs and these consolidations, we would just like to see all of our clubs and branches roll up individually into our area. And we think that's actually going to be the best way for us to share information, pool resources, ensure that our we've got consistency of coaching, and we've got the best resources to ensure our kids can get certificates and pull together and achieve that. And that's often, to be fair, for areas like Auckland and Waitemata Rodney, where they have a lot of clubs in a small geographical area. And so they can pull together a lot easier in that. Where with this one,
I can do that. I can do that question.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you finished that one. So Megan's question was, where did our feedback come from? So it actually goes on to the next slide. So I'll go on to the next slide about the feedback. So I won't forget it. I'll write it down here. I will definitely come to feedback. So some of the questions that we've been having from areas just in our questions, and I'll jump to the first one there in the middle. Why now? So in 2010, 2011, Diane Bell was probably district secretary, area secretary, weren't you, Diane? I'm sure you were. New Zealand Pony Club moved from a committee of management structure into a board structure with 5 elected board members and 2 appointed board members, so a board of 7. At the same time, Anne Atkins and Nikki Williams, they went around the country talking about that, but they were also proposing a removal of the club layer. They went out and they did both together. It was decided at that time, after feedback, that that they'd carry on with the board proposal and they would park the layers of clubs. But in that time, since 2011, it has never gone away. It has always been there as a conversation, not between the board necessarily, but from feedback coming to us. So we always get people coming to us saying to us, you know, we need to take out a layer, we're too busy, we're too busy, we're too busy. And as Megan asked, where's that feedback coming from? So in our surveys, when we ask people for suggestions or the biggest barriers to Pony Club, it has been the volunteer, the time, the being on too many committees. We've also had people, so that's the formal feedback, that's also been in our exit surveys, but we've also had people say to us, I just can't be on another committee. We know around the country, you guys might be really lucky in Otago, Southland area, that there are committees that can't fulfill all their constitutional positions. So that is telling us that people are not stepping up into those positions. So that is
And
just based
just
on our watching and observing.
Yeah, and expanding on that, what we're also seeing and what we're hearing from our committee members is, because of the compliance requirements on, and Louise, I'm going to address your one on removing a layer, address this. What we are talking about on removing the layer is, what we have asked is there a need for an incorporated society to do the functions that our members are asking? They're saying what we are wanting is, we are wanting something that allows us to facilitate and organise teams events, to organise coaches clinics, to organise CBAH certificates, to assist, to allow us to pull resources for some of the high grade kids at rallies where we might not have enough coaches across enough ranches. And the question is, do we need an incorporated society and its compliance to do that? Because what we are saying is, with those ones, you don't necessarily need to have an incorporated society with a formal constitution, with formal meetings, and tie up those meetings on approvals of expenses and approvals of accounts and reviews and all of the rest. When what you're really wanting is just a group of people to work well together to allow the sharing of information and sharing of best practice and sharing of resources. So it's more a communication function, and the need isn't for an incorporated society at the next level to do that.
So on that, sorry, Todd, I was just going to use my example of Tauranga. Tauranga show jumping is an incorporated society. so they can go and they can apply for big funding applications. They haven't actually hosted many events for a very long time, but they're still incorporated. Tauranga Dressage is a very functional dressage group holding a lot of events. They are not incorporated, so they cannot go for big funding applications, but they can still go for sponsorship and they can still hold their events. So
so to your point, Charlotte, are we looking at forming more subcommittees? I had this discussion with Waitemata Rodney. Their look and their view was we would rather manage it, the incorporated society as an area and clubs. The funding happens either at the lowest level where our members are, or at a total level where we can pool funds and resources to achieve bigger and greater things. And we have subcommittees, and those subcommittees potentially change, because what they found is, and what they said their challenges were, sometimes because of the rigid structure, certain clubs were missing out when they had members and we were having to do stuff outside of the normal channels. Because we wanted to get a group of people to do their C certificate together, and we would get 6 different clubs and branches to pull those resources in there. They don't relate to each other. They have no formal line. They've got a subcommittee that runs in there. So in this case, that their view was actually subcommittees work better for us because we stand it up as we need it and we get rid of it when we don't. And so if we need to organise it for this round, we say, right, who needs those people? There is fewer meetings because it's standard up when it's needed and it's got rid of when it's not. Like, you don't need somebody standing there to run one event and have those meetings all year for one event that happens in a certain point, or 2 events. You don't need a committee for that whole length of time. You need a committee for the time that action needs to happen. And once the action is achieved, it stops.
So just like Eventing Champs, their subcommittee of Eventing Champs ran for a certain amount of time with regular meetings in the weeks in front of that, and before that they were less and less, and now they're not having those meetings. I think a lot of our questions will come up, especially when you see the layers in front of you, and we have a little play. So basically, this is not about closing clubs. Unless a club is not at the level that it needs to be at the time of incorporated society. But closing of clubs, merging of clubs happens already. There is no such thing in our current constitution today about clubs going into recession. It must have been something from the past. It's not that, oh, we can just go into recession and kind of hibernate for a while and keep our assets. But that's currently the case today, and we already know that clubs merge. Tikawiti districts used to be eight branches and now is 1 club. So basically, we'll go on to the next one. In your area, when we're looking at your area, because I think if we're looking at your areas and then if we're asking questions, like I preferably like hands up, because I'm just finding it really hard with the chat to try and find the questions, but I love it. It's very polite, very respectful. Are the area branches still what we need today? So that has been a big discussion for our previous ones. So we don't know your areas as experts, you guys do. So just an example of this, up in Auckland and Franklin, Thames Valley and Auckland, there is 1 road. At the start of the road is Auckland with Papatoetoe. 5 minutes away on the same road is Ardmore Pony Club. They're saying, is it time for us to actually look at our areas? They could have done this anytime. Now, to talk about your areas and if you're in the right area, that's a conversation with me. That can happen anytime. Last year I had it with my own local club here at Branch and Katikati. They wanted to move to Franklin Thames Valley. We said hold off and see about it next year. Is my branch or club youth focused? So that is a real priority for Pony Club, and the purpose of Pony Club is youth focused. In our current constitution, it states that a club is a group of 15 members, of which 8 have to be adults. It is inferred that the other 7 should be children or youth under 25 riding focus, but because it is not stated clearly, no one is actually breaking the rules when they've got a club of 15 adults. But we could argue, or we have discussions with people that say they're not youth focused, they're not providing for the youth, they're not providing for the purpose of Pony Club. So this is something to think about. Does my branch or club have enough members to operate? Great, I went with an Auckland group last week and we had a meeting the next day. They went away from it and they went, hang on a minute, we've got enough today, but next year when that family moves away, because they're moving next year, we suddenly don't have enough to operate. What can we do? So we had a discussion about them. Also, sorry, we don't know about your leases and your councils. We're here to support with leases and councils. We can write a really good letter, we can put you in touch with people, but we are not experts on lease negotiations for around New Zealand.
We've got Lee who's got her hand up for a question here when you've got a moment, Lizzie.
Yeah, I'll just finish this last one.
Yep.
Is my branch or club in the right area? Is it time to move to a different area? And that's what I said about my local branch. We've had, as roads have changed, we've had some discussion with Manawatu West Coast at the bottom and the top of Wellington, and discussions, is it time for them? They brought it to the table, is it time for them to move? Also over in the Hawke's Bay, Danny Verk is actually on other sporting boards or the regional sports in Wairarapa, but they're in the Hawke's Bay for us. So they've brought that to the table. Okay, Leah, you're muted.
Oh, hi. So, hi. Yeah. Those of you who don't know me, I'm from Dunedin District. Just regarding your rebranding from branches to clubs, it's I'm finding, I'm not sure about other people, when we're talking about this, it's quite confusing because you start talking about clubs. Are we talking about clubs in the present term or clubs in the new term? And so it's kind of muddying the waters a little bit as to what we're meaning by, are we closing clubs? Well, if we're losing the district layer, which is the club, then we are closing a club because we're rebranding.
So it's a lot clearer in the next slides.
Okay. So just while we're on that, are we going to be reassured that once we've changed to a club, that we're not being exposed to losing, I guess, our control over our current branch?
Can you expand what you mean there?
Well, I just guess if we're rebranding and we're changing to clubs, we're, look, I'm not a lawyer, but legally, if we're rebranding and we're talking about leases and we've got council leases, are we exposing ourselves to them perhaps saying, okay, well, this might be our time to be out, or are we exposing ourselves to...
If the branch, if you're saying that if the branch has a lease and we now change them to a club, can the council or whoever reject that lease now because of the change in name? Is that correct?
Yes, amongst other questions, that's one of them. Yep.
So that's not possible. If the lease still has time to go, there is grandfathering rules in there, and there's a section in the Act that says nothing in this Act and a entity's compliance with this Act will cause it to contracts to fail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. Also, so if we're changing from a branch to a club, does that have the potential for our committees to change, or are we reassured that all our committees will stay the same? It's just a pure straight swap of a name? So
the committees will be defined in the new constitutions that come through. By and large, if you have a branch and it has a president and a treasurer and a secretary and various other members, that will stay exactly the same. Those roles will still be there. They might be rebranded slightly, but they will still be there and required. Those people will be the new key officers of the organisation.
So the current committee that has been voted in this year will be the current committee once the rebranding's happened?
Until the next time of an AGM where that committee stands up. they're
Yeah.
also grandfathered in as part of the
Yeah.
Act.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I'll just jump to the next slides, and I think there will become more in here. So in our constitutions, and we talked about the purpose of Pony Club. So our purpose of Pony Club will be in all our constitutions. So this is our why, this is our purpose. Sorry, I lost my word. So have just a brief look at that, but you'll see that it hasn't changed. It's still events, it's still activities, it's still about facilitating training of members, coaches, examiners. It's to be a youth organisation.
And an education-focused organisation. Our big thing in here, and our big selling point that differentiates us from other equestrian organisations in New Zealand is our certificate system. It's world recognised, and it provides a great progress of achievement and building block for our members, and really should be where we focus for our youth members, is pushing them through that. It's been a big thing for us on the board. We don't want to lose our integrity in that space, and we want to make sure that we grow and we encourage all of our members to interact with specifically that part of us as much as we possibly can.
And that you can see that through our strategic planning and our focuses on our coaches and our rider development. It's a big focus. It's where we begin. Okay, let's get to the fun stuff. So here we go. This is the slide that I think, Leah, this would be helping. So if we were looking at a 3-layer organisation, now we know when we presented this the first time, we were trying to, we used the word cluster because we didn't want to use a term like area because we'd end up confusing people, but we've done that with the club/branch. But if you're thinking about the 3-layer structure, we've got the national layer, and then we've got the club layer. And then in the middle here, we've got an administrative layer. And what that layer would look like is up to you. And I'll get to there in a sec. So at the national layer, it's the setting the visions, the values, and the strategy for New Zealand Pony Club. So it ensures consistency and standards, oversees national competitions, manages national partnerships, and maintains policies, frameworks, including safety education and the certification pathway. So everything we are doing now. At the bottom, we'd have the club layer. So currently that might be your branch, but it's your branch or it's your club, depending on which structure you're in. So this is the foundation of the Riders Pony Club experience. This is where the riders spend their time. This is where they go to rallies. This is where they receive instruction. This is where they work towards their certificates and build their community. So clubs focus on regular rallies, coaching and developing safe and capable riders, volunteers, and horses. In this intermediate layer, and this is where we've got some scenarios for you because everyone's got different ideas. This is the purpose of the governance and oversight, which is that intermediary layer between the clubs and the national body. It could easily be your area of today, or you may go, our area of today is too big, we're really wide, and let's split our area, or let's go into more of 3 areas. It depends on what you guys want to do. And we know as an area, you are you're a successful area. You run great area training camps. You run, so if you want to decide to be kept as an area, that is fine. Other people have brought that up as well, and that is the model that they're looking at. So there's the development and support. So this is where the facilitation and extension of riders. So this is your area camp, your training camp. This is your area champs. This is your area talent pathways. This is facilitating inter-club events, going, okay, where's the inter-club events? But there's nothing stopping down at club layers, and we've talked about this in the Waikato, that those Hamilton clubs, if they were Hamilton branches, but now they'd now be clubs that used to be under Hamilton. They said that they'd keep going and they would make sure that those events continued. So instead of it being under the club umbrella, making sure that everyone's doing it, it would just be hosted by this time by that club first and then that club. You guys are very different in the South Island because a lot of your events are already based at the lowest level, like your South Island and your Springston. Resource sharing and best practice forums. So that is what we see that intermediate layer doing. There is a handout from Louise.
Yeah, thanks, Lizzie. And so, like, I didn't want to interrupt, but like,
On mute again,
unmute
Louise.
again. It's okay. Are you one of those guys that can't let a woman drive? That's great, Todd. So just what I wanted to ask was, like, I can see what you're trying to do, and I'm not against gaining the efficiency of reducing a layer, but I guess I'm still struggling to see. So in terms of that lower level stuff we run, like pony club level, 1-day events and gymkhanas, etc., if that sits with the administrative layer, then that's adding additional burden to them. Or if it goes to club layer, actually, you know, an individual club isn't resourced to cover that. And then you mentioned much earlier about how you feel that that could be sort of an informal group of clubs collaborating, but actually, you know, there's costs to distribute for those events and bits and pieces. So without a formal structure and rules and you know, cash surrounding that, how do you see the viability of those being preserved?
So I just have a question there because I'm just misunderstanding a bit, and it might be better when we go onto the slides with some club pictures on it. But so in your area at the moment, do branches not run gymkhanas and only clubs run gymkhanas? Is that what I've misunderstood? Was that the question?
Well, if we use the current terminology, Lizzie, so Southland Pony Club works collaboratively across our current branches, so the grassroots level, to share the load of gymkhanas. So there's 3 gymkhanas a year, which are spread on rotation between branches hosting and running them, or those branches that are too small, or, you know, maybe they've got new parents to riding, they may not have the skills, are supported by other members of the branch as we know it, or sorry, the club as we know it, for those events to happen. A 1-day event, for example, is quite a big event, and you know, because our individual branches you know, potentially wouldn't be resourced to run them themselves, again, those are done on a rotation, or actually, you know, split relatively fairly through that branch structure. So you know, the concern is that if that formal structure isn't there and ensuring that happens, then what happens? And I must admit, based on your reaction, I'm a little bit surprised that there wasn't maybe a deeper awareness of how that was carried out prior.
No, well, because as we said, every area is completely different, and sorry, in my experience of Pony Club, and I'm from Taronga Pony Club, yeah, Taronga Pony Club does have Taronga Pony Club runs very little. Taronga Pony Club has 4 branches underneath it, and the 4 branches all independently run their own gymkhana, and with very little support under the Taronga banner, apart from that the gymkhanas maybe to choose the Taronga Gymkhana team. So as you can see, pony clubs all over the country are based on our personal experiences, and this is a lot different. So this is why we're here, and this is why we're having these conversations, because that experience is definitely not the experience I've had in my pony club journey as a parent in Taronga.
And I'd like to say, we did discuss this, Louise, and we discussed these sorts of things in a lot of detail, because, and there were some in-depth discussions, because you're right, there are a number of places where they have inter-club using the new events across an area. and they use 3 or 4 branches to get enough members to make a team to go into those interclub events within the area. Now, and the discussion was, well, how do we do that? Well, we get a group of passionate parents together and they run it. There isn't necessarily a requirement for those people to be the same people that are on the district committee that are running that event. And in many cases, they're not on that district or club committee. They're groups of people from the lower levels. In other words, to use Charlotte's term, we created a subcommittee. And what we found when we investigated a lot of these is, although district, or what I refer to as district being the club, provided support, most of the work was done by volunteer parents that were not necessarily part of any of those committees. So they didn't need a formal incorporated society to ensure that those still happened. You'll also find, and this was a discussion I had with Marge up here. She said, well, actually, it's back to the future because we never used to run these with branches. We used to only ever run them with clubs. We didn't have branches until we started getting too big and it became too difficult. And now we're sort of going back to the way it was when she was in pony. So it's not something new, and it's not something where it's absolutely impossible to ever run an event with it. Does it run differently? Yes. Would it require a change in how people think? Yes. Would it require a change in how we'd fundraise and how we'd move costs? Yes.
Yeah, and I appreciate everything that you're saying, and that there's been a lot of discussion and dialogue and thought gone into this. But could you help me understand what sort of analysis was done across all of the current branches and areas that are being discussed being merged? Oh, so we're this far through the process and now we're doing the analysis.
Well, we haven't actually had much time to address it. We have had the request through. We're putting it out for discussion now, and honestly, if it comes back and people go, no, we're willing to shelve it.
No, that's okay. My mistake. I thought there may have been analysis done of the current functions to land where we are now. So that's okay. I'll zip it and see how we progress.
We can't do massive amounts of analysis with 2.5 full-time FTE at National Office and 7 volunteer board members. We don't have the resource to go, right, we're going to go through. If you think about what we're doing now, this is the level of analysis. We've got board members and Lizzie who've been attending 4 of these seminars a week trying to get this through and go through. The only reason we're able to do it now is because we put the pressure on ourselves to actually achieve it. If we didn't, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. And to be fair, I think Pony Club would be worse off for not having it.
So can we continue and we just show you what you currently look like? And sorry, there's no Clyde. I'm sorry about that. I can pop Clyde on. I don't know why Clyde dropped off. So
that was Kelly. She took it out. They're removing themselves from Pony Club and they're going to go independent.
I just put it there. So sorry about that. So basically,
before you get into that, Lizzie, Megan's got a question.
Yeah, just in regards to Todd, you mentioned 2.5 full-time people at head office. How do you think they're going to cope if you remove a layer? There's probably going to be twice as many inquiries and assistance required.
We get inquiries from everybody already, so it's no one at any time. I don't know why my computer just went off. At no time do we not get inquiries. It's not like people cannot contact us.
But you're removing a layer, so is that not going to add to the top layer of?
Theoretically, it'll reduce it because at the moment she gets inquiries from 3 layers of the organisation. It will then just be 2.
Sorry, my computer has just
glitched. Sorry, I have to argue that's because the majority of the inquiries would be handled at area level So, or district level,
We
club
get
level.
a lot of branch.
So you
We get a
remove
lot of branch inquiries.
Mm.
There's a lot of
we
inquiries that
get
come
we
from
get a hell of a
branches
lot of
because
club.
districts don't actually answer
So,
them.
as
And
I
I'd say
said,
they'd still be answered. There's still going to be an interface between that level. The current branch will go to an administrative layer. We're not saying that everything rolls up directly to head office.
But what you're saying is that area is going to be covering off all of the branches with no club intervention. So that how are those volunteers going to cope with that? That's
So
all going
that
to get
is
handed on to head office, is it not?
so that is a proposal. One of the layers when we get into the modelling to show you. I'm not
That's why
sure
some
how the
areas
traffic. I'm not sure
are
how the
saying
traffic would increase.
yeah, that's why some areas are saying, hey, we're comfortable. We think we've got the people that can support this. And other areas are saying, actually, our current area design doesn't work for that. What we would need to probably split down, and it would make more sense to do that.
And currently, geographically, your area is the largest area here, and it's up to you if that's the right geographical location. And yes, you do have a lot of clubs and branches in underneath. So is this, the screen is sharing now? Yeah,
Yeah.
perfect. Okay, sorry, my computer glitched out there for a little bit because I tried to fix Clive. So here you are currently, and this is what you look like. And I'm sorry, Clyde, you might not be on the next slide, but you know that you are very, very much part of it. I don't know why it disappeared. So currently you have a very large area with 7 clubs and then all the branches underneath. And as I said earlier, you are the only area. Sorry, Amy, I don't know what your question was because it's probably in the chat up there and disappeared. I'm sorry. So if you
Yeah,
want
I
to
also
say
put
it.
my hand up.
Oh, okay. Then there you go.
So I'm just wondering, so I can put it into perspective in my mind for our area, because I find it very confusing talking about all the different other areas and the use of the word club everywhere. The 2 eventing events that Tari District runs annually, sometimes it's 3, would they be run by the new club layer? And what club would run them? Or would the administrative layer add them to their current workload and run them?
Okay. I want to answer your question, but I really want to answer it in slide 21.
Sure, that's fine.
Because I think in slide 21, you'll be able to see potentially what could happen in the change. So we'll definitely come back to you in slide 21.
Thanks.
Okay, so because you're such a big area, I needed to do this on a separate screen. Here are your current numbers based on March, when we took the numbers for the annual report. So your under 25 numbers are the numbers that you will be voting on, get for voting rights at the AGM as clubs. So as you can see there, we've got our under 25s, our adults, and our horse masters. And there was one there that had 3 horse, I think it was Gore, had horse masters, but the horse masters were also adult members.
Lizzie, could you please make it just a little bigger? I know you've got a lovely big screen probably in the bottom. Thank you.
Oh, it's gonna glitch out. This is the. I'll try and get
copies of these will be available as well. The slides will be set out separately.
And unfortunately, your area did not like fitting into my. It's a large area, so hopefully I'll get there. Okay, is that better?
Thank you, much better.
Okay, so this is what you currently look like with numbers, and we do have a process of closing at the moment, so there's no numbers there because of numbers. So, and you take up a large amount here. So I'm just going to go to the next one, and this is slide 21, and this is just what some of the other areas have been discussing. I know we're talking about your area, and we can make things work for yourself. I'm sorry I couldn't make it any bigger than this, but this was if you were retaining the area as an administrative layer. So some of the options could be that all of the branches are now clubs. So you're all big enough and independent enough that you'd be along this line by yourself as a separate identity, all reporting to the one Otago Southland. So that's a lot of clubs been presenting to Otago Southland, but you're all based on those numbers. There's a few of you that are a little bit little, but you could, you know, literally have the two layers being the administrative layer who, you know, area, they do an amazing job and doing all of those. We've got Tyree District Eventing over here. Todd, do you want to explain a little bit about that, about what that means?
So what we've noticed in other parts, and I don't know much about Tyree District, but we've had a
It was
couple.
just that Emma said they had 2 cross-country courses, so
Yeah.
that's why they're there.
We've had a couple of entities that are similar in Wellington and the Lights, where we have communal assets that are owned by groups of clubs or branches. So they don't naturally fall into one area, and we have often had an incorporated society that's been attached to them. Now, one of the options that is available is that there can be a separate incorporated society set up out. At the moment, the way the structure work is set up is in support of our membership rolling up and our votes rolling up. That isn't the only way to have an incorporated society as part of NZPCA. There is the option to have out to the side a separate standalone incorporated society where its members are required to be NZPCA members. They must vote on and follow the NZPCA rules and regulations, but they don't have any voting rights. So they don't sit naturally into one of those structures, and a separate incorporated society is set up outside to allow those groups of entities to own those assets that are common across different clubs, branches in that structure. So my understanding is the Tyree District Eventing is similar to that, in that it owns eventing assets that are common across a number of clubs, and something would need to be set up outside of the normal structure to support that ownership.
And this is something that's already happened in New Zealand Pony Club in 2012 with Battle Hill Eventing. So it's a course that is owned by the pony clubs, but on land that belongs to someone else.
And it's owned it's owned by branches and clubs that are not part of a single sort of district or grouping. It's changed over time.
And the second picture there was, you know, this is completely based on numbers, and I don't know where you are, so this might not work. This is just for examples only. But, you know, if there were clubs that are getting a bit small to go by themselves, come to you in a minute, Lenore, after we talk to Amy, back to Amy, is if that you were too small to go by yourself, that you could potentially stay in the club being East and Southland, but the branches become venues of the club and operate as venues currently. So it's the merging, everyone going up into the club layer. The branch is now just a venue. I understand that that's already potentially happened with South Otago over here, that had branches underneath and they became into a venue. Now, answering back to Amy's question, I guess, Amy, under this model, that you'd be looking at that one club, Mosgiel, Strath Tyree, West Tyree, or Waikawa running that cross country as the main organisers, and the others helping out to run that cross country course, a little bit like the Springston Trophy. When you guys organise Springston Trophy, my understanding that as a branch runs it. So Cromwell run Springston Trophy by themselves, and they did a fantastic job, and they got the cross country course and things like that. So that was the concept there. So going to Amy, if I haven't answered that full enough, I'll come back to it or ask me more.
I mean, it does answer the question. I just struggle to see how the manpower would facilitate that.
Well, the manpower doesn't change.
But it would, because the club's not, they haven't got the club
Well,
manpower for a club ODA. It's like it's company club.
And you don't need an incorporated society over it. You just need to make sure.
No, I understand you don't need an incorporated society over it. What I'm saying is West Tyree, with whatever those numbers were at 20 odd people, would not be able to run a full 2-day event.
Not without support from others. They'd need to get others to put their hands up. And an incorporated society doesn't change.
Quite hard. I'm not saying anything about incorporated societies.
So, yeah, I'm not sure how Cromwell ran Springston by themselves, but I was very new. It was my first few weeks there. But they did an amazing job, and that's my only experience of that. So,
Cromwell's 3 hours away.
I was just using Cromwell as an example of they ran Springston Trophy. So,
yeah, they've got. So Central Otago ran Cromwell.
Okay.
Janice has just confirmed.
Oh, sorry. I thought that branches ran Springston. My apologies.
No, it's clubs that run it and host it, but it's a branch competition where branches have teams.
Okay, Lenore. Are you with us, or you may
You're
be
on mute,
muted?
Lenore.
Sorry about that technical hiccup. My question's just around if we had to set up an incorporated society around Tyree eventing, if that was something, or whatever it was, a legal structure to protect our assets or manage our assets, what help would we be given from NZPCA to do that, or would that sit with us? Because I imagine there's some cost and some legal requirements. And in what time frame would that have to be done within?
It would be done in the same time frame as that we'd be doing all the other changes. So,
and we already have affiliated Battle Hill eventing, so
we already have an entity that we're doing it for, so we will have a template.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. So that was if you were looking at retaining Otago Southland. I'm going to be the devil here and just give you other options on the next page. And this would be, see, it's bigger now. If you wanted to consider as a collective group to split your area, and I know that your area is very effective. So I'm just giving you this scenario. So, and I'm sorry if Clyde, you disappeared again, but you know that you're there. So if the Southland clubs and branches went under the Southland umbrella, or the Otago ones went under that, but you'd have to have a discussion, is that worthwhile? Because I know that you're effective as an area running together. That was just another scenario, as in splitting, looking at other options, removing barriers. So these are just some of the differences that there could be. I don't know.
So, and the key thing that we're asking people to think about with this, constitutions are required for incorporated societies. And so the question is, do we need an incorporated society? There was the one in there, a lot of these models still have 4 layers. Yes, but not all of those layers are incorporated societies.
The light blue aren't incorporated.
And so with those ones, it's making sure, because incorporated societies and that where we're getting the pressure back, it's not that areas or clubs or branches don't do the basics well, because they do. They get certificates sorted, they run events, they get teams, they do all of those sorts of things. The issues we have with them is, do they comply with the Act? Do they have their quorums? Are they effectively running their meetings? Are they ensuring that their voting rights are met in line with the Constitution? In these situations, that's where we're finding that things aren't going well. And when that's not going well, that's when the members of those committees are open to legal ramifications. So they're making decisions that are outside of the rules and regulations. What we are trying to do in simplifying the layers is reducing that administrative burden. It requires a change to the way we think. We still want to see club events. We still want to see a lot of activities and these actions happening across. What we don't want to see is issues with the registrar or with the legal standing of clubs, because we're not meeting quorums or we're not managing in line with constitutions, because we're moving with members or those. And what we're looking at with this change in a layer is about saying, right, at what layers must we have an incorporated society for the effective running of the organisation? And if not, and then what's the stuff that we can do to still ensure that as an organisation we meet our goals and our objectives and can that be done without an incorporated society? Can it be done using our rules and regulations and frameworks around that, saying these groups should be meeting and talking together, but they don't need to file sets of accounts, find chartered accountants, do recs, and all of those sorts of things, and they can do that further up.
So just jumping up back to, I think it was Louise's question in the chat that went up here a long time. So asking about these, please explain. So these venues of the club would not have committees. So the committee, if you went for a venue, and I only just pulled these out, I could have done this to any of the ones over here. So there would be one committee. There would be one committee being Northern Southland. And now, true, I don't know your location, and that's why we're here sitting. It's not me just going on a map and going, pop it in here, because we don't know your roads. We don't know that. Closest to me is Te Araha, which is 5 k's away, but unfortunately there's a big Kaimai range in the middle, so we didn't know that. So this is why we're here having conversations. So there'd be one committee being Northern Southland, and you could have the 3 different venues if you wanted to. So once a month you might have a rally at Castle Rock Mosburn, the next rally might be at Tianu and Waimea Plains. So you've got a bigger pool of volunteers, you've got a bigger pool of coaches, and okay, you've got 3 different venues. You'd look at your budgeting, would have those venues, because of course assets would be rolling up into Northern Southland. You'd be making sure that you've got the budgeting, and you've got some people who live close that go, okay, I'm going to look after it today or not. Or you might be as lucky as being on a domain, I don't know, that you've only got to do the picking up poo afterwards, like that. It will definitely, the benefits are that people might be able to go to more rallies, or it depends on where they're based. I can't do one this week because I'm busy, but I'm prepared to drive that little bit extra to go to the one the next fortnight or something like that. So these are just the feedback we are getting, and it would allow you that those clubs like this one here, like the Gore, that's going to be, it's really little at the moment, it could continue to be going without having to formally close or formally merge and all of those.
And your comment, split venues could allow riders to access more resources at different venues rather than being restricted to the current branch. Yes, that is a comment, particularly in the Waitemata, Rodney and Auckland region, that's happening, where they're saying we actually want to be able to pull wider across our B and A level riders, because we don't have enough of a ride to justify the coach at that level. And it's not just that club, but it's actually 6 branches that are unrelated but are able to get a central venue to run those rallies separately.
Can I just, Louise had a question. Is this a widespread problem? Louise, a little bit more than that. It's a widespread problem as in what?
When I put it up was when Todd was making reference to all of the like potential breaches to the rules and compliance of incorporated societies, running meetings without quorums and just being a general cowboy operation under the rules. Because I would have thought if that was the current state that there would be mechanisms in place to address that.
There's only mechanisms in place if we know that there are places running without quorums, because it's a high trust model and it always has been, that if you're not got a quorum, that you come to us and you ask to reduce your quorum. I could look on the database.
Seen when they've come to us and asked, they've come to us and asked late, and they've made decisions that they weren't actually allowed to make. And in similar manners, there've been situations where they've been acting outside because they haven't known, because they haven't been able to pull their resources. So even though there is committees and the likes there, there's been a new committee come on, they're not really certain who to contact, and they've sat there operating for 2 or 3 years before they've gone, actually, guys, we really need you to answer this, and we've finally got a contact detail to get in touch with someone.
So that's sounding a little bit maybe like a behavioural and knowledge problem rather than a structural problem. So what other steps and layers of support will go in place around this to ensure that that's not replicated?
So we are definitely working on our resourcing and the very clear resourcing and providing to the grassroots, so making resources for the grassroots. One thing that we do see is a lot of committees don't have all the positions, and actually the only constitutional position that can be shared is the treasurer and the secretary. That's the only shared position. And around the country, we've got a lot of positions that are like, oh, I'm the head coach and the secretary, or I'm the head coach and the treasurer, or I might be the DC and the head coach. That's just some of the noticings that we're doing. So but as you said, it's knowledge. We have to work through those and we have to get the information down to people. So our job is to build better resources that support people, and that's what we've been focusing on this year with our website. We've got a new A to Z on the website as questions come in. We do find though that lots of people don't go and look at the website or read the website first. They'll just come and ask. So it's education in that fact. It's those forums. I had another point, it's gone. So we are completely focusing on the grassroots support and that consistency across. And it's like, if you know that that's happening, it's like, that's not quite right. Currently, we have a lot of questions about running of AGMs, a lot. And we know that there will be those cycles, be AGMs, and then soon it will be certificates and it will be dispensations. And it's just showing people where those are in the regulations.
The other one that we have is honestly committee burnout, and it's because and as I said earlier, the president of the branch is on the district, on the club committee, and then also on the area committee, and they're doing a lot of stuff and they're repeating a lot of tasks that are going through. So and what we're also noticing is that information gets missed. Now, you might say that's an operational problem, but the more levels we have, the harder it is for us to get communications down to that lowest level of the organisation where our members are. And we have a very good conversation with area, but you can say from a board level, we have no idea at the next level down, and some areas are much better than others. Now, some clubs are much better than others in getting stuff to the branch. One of the key things in here that we were asked was to look at a way that we can be a bit flatter in this organisation. And as I said, it's going back to the future. This isn't new for the Pony Club. It was a previous structure, but it is the way that we've developed now. And we just need to go, right, is it the way that we need to move forward? And if our members come back and say, actually, we absolutely hate it, so be it. We've had it asked. We're more than happy to go, well, if our members don't want it, we'll go back to the original way and go out with that one.
Absolutely. So that's probably the biggest thing from this is to go and put your feedback in and go, this is not what we want. We strongly oppose it, and put those questions in that, or, you know, what about this? What about this? What about this? Brock, you had your hand up first.
Hi, thanks. I was just wondering if we do decide, like, as an area, we don't like this, like you've done, we're quite a wee way through these. How do you think it would go at that? Does it matter what Otago Southland think now? It's going to go through with or without us?
We haven't got any feedback back yet to know which way the whole organisation's going. So we can't say hand on heart that we know.
You must know, Todd, from how the meetings have been going.
Well, I've got a feeling by and large people are supportive of removing a layer. However, that's the feedback they're giving to me on the camera. I'm interested to see what the anonymous feedback is actually coming through the surveys. And that's why I think it's really important for you guys to do those surveys so we know what you really feel. And I haven't seen all the results of those yet.
Okay, so if it does go through as a 3-layer, but Otago Southland are strongly against it, can we still in some way continue as we are if we're strongly against it? Or are you going to be like, no, you've got to change regardless?
It will be a national level. So what will come down will be it'll be a national structure, because having multiple structures for the national body to manage becomes quite difficult. So if the majority of members come down and say we're going one way or the other, that's the way it's going to go.
At the AGM, yeah, Todd, at the AGM, how many votes is there all up?
So
it depends based on membership, but it'll be around 170 votes.
Yeah.
And
like, because as a percentage, what percentage would Otago Southland hold of those 170?
About 10%.
Yeah. And we need what, 50%? Is it 51%, and it will go through, or do we need 70%?
75% to pass a constitutional amendment. I would say, though, this is the importance of the survey. If you don't leave it till then, because if everybody's told me that they want 3 layers and then everyone votes it down in August, you're not going to have your constitutions ready in time for April.
So
because I've got to start writing them now.
So that is why
I'm writing them
June.
On the 6th of June, after the board meeting, we're starting the templates for whatever the structure's going to be.
Internet's playing up. Yeah.
So we need your feedback, because if we present based on the feedback that we are, yes, everyone is, that people support and the majority support, the constitution that you will be given in July will reflect that feedback. So if the feedback is saying that we've got a 3-layer, that people prefer a 3-layer system, you'll be presented that at the 3rd of August. And at the 3rd of August, that then gets voted down. We've followed the feedback that we got on June to get to August and now not have a constitution that's passed. So it's really important to get it there.
And it's because it's not just the national constitution. We've got to get all of your level constitutions done and the templates built as well. And we do not have the resources to build various copies to cover in the variety of scenarios. That's one of the reasons that we're going through and doing all of this now, and we're asking for the feedback. If it does come back and it says, actually, no, we don't like it, then that gives us time in June to be able to start drafting for the other areas. If it comes back and it says, without that, if you come back on the 3rd of August and say, hey, I know you've spent all that time and worked on it, you now need to go back and redo the national one, then redo the area one,
No,
then
then we have to
redo
have
the
an
club
SGM.
one,
We have
and
to have
then
an
redo
SGM.
the branch one. And in each one of these levels, each part of the organisation has to have an SGM to approve it, and it has to come back to the board before it's verified. You're going to slow that process down, because on the 3rd of August, you're going to say no. I'm not going to have something for you before October, and we'll do an SGM for the national body.
So we need that feedback. So Amy, you've got your hand up there, and so we'll go with Amy, and then after Megan, and then we've got a few in the chat group. Amy?
Yeah, so I guess I've got a couple of things. I guess my main point here would be like it feels as if there's a lot of pressure to accept this proposal, particularly Todd's comments just now about
Well,
the
it's
time
not
limit.
to accept the
Sorry,
proposal.
Todd, I'm
It's to
talking.
give us feedback
We
on it.
didn't pick this timeline. So for you to say that we don't have enough time when that's the date you've given us to vote, that feels unjust. I can't find it right now, but there's been comments made in the question and answers about this being the only option. And there's no plan B, I think it was phrased.
Because,
No, at the
we want your
AGM.
feedback so that at the AGM we have the constitution that everyone is happy with to approve.
Okay, but we're providing feedback now and it's just being rebutted.
No,
Well-
we need it to go into the survey, because, okay, we can get the tone of some people in this room.
But you can
we need,
write about 3 words in the survey.
you can write as many words as you want in the survey.
Not the one I did.
There's a free text box in the bottom of it.
I will show you.
Maximum limit, the free text box.
I'll then send me an email, and I will pop it into the comments on the side. So that is why we're doing this in there. And on the timeline, we got the Sports NZ Constitution in October. And before that, Todd, it was maybe slightly before that, because Todd and Emma, as the previous chair, started to work on it. It has been a focus. So I can say it has been a focus project. We went to our areas in February with the plan to start the consultation in March, April, and now we're into May. So we apologise if it feels rushed. That was not our intent, but if that feedback is there, let's put it in. Megan.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask, obviously you sort of get the feeling there's a little bit of kickback from this area on quite a number of concerns. What I'd like to ask is, currently as a branch, we are expected to take members from other branches that have branch hopped, if you like. Will we still be expected to take those members on? Or I guess what I'm saying is I have concerns of the framework that you put up there earlier. If we're in disagreement of this whole thing and we don't move forward with it, and as a national body they say, well, it's Rule 75 and it goes ahead, are we going to be, like, I guess, is Brighton going to be put with Peninsula? Do we have any say in that?
Oh, so sorry. No, sorry, I didn't make that clear enough. These on the screen are just examples, and I'm only using Brighton and Peninsula as an example. So you could choose to go it alone, as long as you've got the numbers to go it alone. So these are just seriously examples, and I really apologize for that. My computers obviously had glitches like administrative layer and Taranaki before. These are just examples. So you could say, no, we're good being wherever we are. And as long as your numbers support you, and they do, I don't know which one you are, they support you to stay alone by yourself. So please note that you get an absolute say in this. This was just to show example modelling.
Louise, you've mentioned in there that surely it's not paraphrasing, it's not a massive job to redo the Constitution again. It actually is, and it's because of so many of the different layers of membership are cross-referenced in a lot of clauses. It's quite an amount of work to update and correct and check and tidy up voting rights and all of those when they've gone through and changed. So it's not as simple as going, oh, just copy and paste this and put it in, because then you've got to update the reference to those organisations right throughout the document. So it's still a big piece of work.
And we definitely do want to put it, we definitely want to get that feedback. Okay, just going to jump ahead slightly. So as we said, that feedback and that consultation, and I'll show you exactly if you're wanting to go there before you get the link. So we're making our website a one-stop shop. In a Constitution update, there's all the information there of the Constitution. Tonight underneath here will be your recording. If you feel like you want to go to more meetings, you can come along to any of these. There's King Country, all of the ones left to go. This is the survey here. I'll click on it in a moment. We've got the question and answers. It sounds like people know that they're here. Here are the original slides that show the proposed of changes, the major changes within the Constitution. Now these major changes, no matter what, with the structure, so when you're commenting on it, not just the structure but also the other proposed changes, don't forget about those. And then if you're looking for, that's been updated, the current constitutions versus to the drafts and the summaries down the bottom, plus the bill. But up in here, this is where we're wanting your survey. And as Amy said, if the text box is too small, please just feel free to send us an email. It's completely, you don't have to put your name, you don't have to put your email, but if you want your question answered specifically from me, you want a response from me, I do need your email. And some people are requesting responses. I do check the questions once a day. We do need your area. We also need your role and what you are feeling about the structure. And then you've got space here, and I must say some of them that are coming in are very long. Emma, you've been asked a question from Brooke, who's asked, because up there you said you've in 3 other sports and you're involved with their Constitution updates, and Brooke has asked what others are doing.
Cool. I was just actually about to start typing, so that saves me typing. My day job, I'm manager of Otago Rowing Association, and they have their AGM this weekend, and their constitution, their national constitution, is being voted on this weekend. And we haven't got templates yet for the RSO or the clubs. We've been promised them a number of times, but unfortunately, as Todd says, it's not so simple as copy and pasting. You do have to actually consult quite a lot of stuff. So we're hoping we'll have them in the next couple of weeks, but we've already had our AGM as a regional, so we're going to have an SGM somewhere between now and Christmas to adopt the regional sports organisation one. Rowing did do a mock vote, but they have a different voting structure to Pony Club. I'm also working, been doing some contract work for the New Zealand Rodeo Cowboy Association, and I've just helped them rewrite their national constitution, and that's being sent to their board next week, and then it will be sent to their members, so it's still a few weeks away from even being sent to their members. So there's 2 examples of sports and so we are in the same. I feel confident that we're doing quite well in the sports scene, and I say that because I, being board chair, did go to all the Sport NZ workshops with my NZ PCA hat on. We did a lot of arguing around whether we need an audit and review as a sports collective. So it's really important that, you know, this is something that's just jumped, come out of nowhere. It has actually took some time for Sport NZ to get to a template that was the best for us as a sport. And I think the other thing is, when we first started discussing this, I looked at sports of similar sizes, and a lot of those sports are working really successfully with 3 layers. So I guess that's also something to consider. And I like the thought that, Brooke, yeah, it's good to have a look and see what other sports are doing and what works well.
Okay, and then just the last place, and then we can answer Anna's question. So the AGM information. Now, if you're not attending the AGM as a club, you will have the ability to electronic vote. There is no proxy voting in our NZPCA constitution. We do not have the ability to zoom in for the AGM. As an organisation, we have 3 computers and we need those for the AGM ourselves. So, but if you are attending the conference information is all on the conference page. We can help you by sending a supporting letter for your funding application if you wish to do one. Some of the noted changes this year is that we have a national forum instead of an area forum. In the past, we've had the area with 1 speaking right and 1 observer. This year it's national, so that's a bigger forum for people to come along and talk about items of discussion, items of business. And on the Saturday and Sunday, we are full of practical workshops for that grassroots layer. So we are working on supporting our clubs and our branches if they come along.
You can schedule messages to send later and the messages out.
Okay, thanks, Siri. So that's there. All the information is here. As an area, you've got your forms for awards, you've got your forms for items of business, and your forms for presidents and board members elected. But we definitely, that is where we're having the vote. So if you cannot come along, we definitely want you to put in your electronic vote. And put in your vote for our survey, which once again, I will send you the link. But if you're wanting to do it ASAP, you're invited to take the survey there. Can you please clarify without, so currently for AGMs, and it's not clear that it is the adults with children who are the nominators of people to go on to committees. So it's those people, once you're nominated, of course you get a vote in the committee.
So is that like the current branch? It's nominating people.
Yeah, current
branch. Sorry, I'm just trying to wrap my head around it.
So it's
at the lowest
currently
level where the riders sit.
Yeah,
and it's meant to be. It's currently in the constitution, but it is very unclear, and it's been a discussion point. And we know, and I'm guilty of it. I've sat at a branch rally, and I'm like, I haven't got any children there, and I'm like, I'm going to nominate Jane, or I'll nominate Bob. I don't want to use anyone in here. And then I'm going to second that person, and that's what's happened. And it's only been sitting here and being in conversations with T&E committees and board members, and it's like, well, that's not the intent. And it's like, well, it's not clear. And we know that. And we know that out there are people that are in that roles, but it will become clearer in the new constitution, no matter what the structure. So there are a few things.
Just to clarify, just to clarify for my personal brain. So I'm a pony club member as a coach, but I don't have children myself. At a meeting, I can't say, oh, well, I nominate Bob for president.
No.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay.
Yep.
And that will remain at the new constitution.
And what it was designed to protect the pony club from being to be youth focused is my understanding.
Yeah.
I think Emma, you were there as the board chair when it came through, if you wanted to explain more on that.
Yeah, I just think I think I did put a post up on, well, this question came up on the Otago Southland Facebook page, and I did comment then just to try and help people as they were sometimes getting a little bit more confused as people ask more questions. But I think the key thing about it was to protect the youth members in the youth organisation. I can't really think of too many examples in Otago Southland, but we certainly have some examples up north where they have quite impressive facilities and adult members grazers and are using the facilities, and a lot of those people were having equal rights. So there was the potential, and there was actually some cases where they were making decisions where Pony Club were having less ability to use the facilities or hold their rallies when they wanted to hold their rallies. So that was the whole intent of it, is to, and I think if you think about it, that it's only the AGM, because once you're in, because I've been this person, I don't have children, and I've been head coach, but as soon as at the AGM I'm elected into a position on the committee, then I have a say and a voting right. But the parents of the kids who are our core business have had the say that I'm the right person for the job.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad rule. I think the example you've given, like with up north and the facilities and stuff, is a very valid reason for that. I just wanted to clarify exactly what it meant, because it was confusing and it did sound, I guess, a lot more restricting than it does now. You've explained it, so thank you.
And I'm pretty sure life members always have a voting right.
No, life members don't.
They don't? Okay.
No, they can go on to committees. A life membership is just a recognition of service. But if they are on a committee, then they vote with the powers of their role on that committee, but they cannot nominate members to that committee or second or nominate themselves.
I think the other important thing, because in that chat we had on the Facebook, there were some conversations about people's opinions. It's not to say that you still can't be given speaking rights and give your point of view across, even if you're not got the vote. There's a lot of people who are respected that way in Pony Club.
Okay, I can't keep up with the chat, so I'm not sure where we're up to or whose questions have been clarified or any points that need to be questioned or things like that. Sorry. I might have one big screen over here, but not one here. So is there anyone who feels their questions have not been so?
So just with regard to the voting, the current constitutions state that adults, riders and life members can vote at AGMs, at general meetings, SGMs and AGMs. Obviously, if they're voted onto a committee, then it becomes committee decisions. So this is quite a change, and I would have to say, in my 3 decades of attending AGMs, it's parents with riders that have attempted to hijack those elections, never the adults or the life members. Currently, everyone has equal rights to vote, and it seems very undemocratic to attempt to change that.
That does sit. So yes, you're correct on the life members, and I'm open to be discussing on that one, because there should be a recognition there of their membership, and I do support that one. Adult members, it depends on the definition in there, and that definition has been adjusted. So traditionally, an adult member was a parent of a riding member under 18 years of age, or a riding member between the ages of 18 and 24. And that's why they had the votes in there. So you had your riding members 18 to 24 could vote, and an adult member who was the who was a parent or guardian of a riding member under the age of 18. And then you had alongside that your adult ride / horse mastership members who didn't have those rights to vote. The definition of adult member has moved through the constitutions, and that's the one that we're looking at tidying up.
Leah's got a question.
Yeah, just in regards to the parents that have children under 18. So if I've got 2 children that are under 18, that should theoretically give me 2 votes.
1 vote.
Why?
Because you are one adult member as that currently occurs. That's correct, isn't it, Todd?
If you were a guardian of one and your partner was a guardian of the other, then you would have 2 votes. But you're currently down as one adult member. The fact that you've got 2 riding members doesn't give you any more right.
But aren't we voting on behalf of that child?
But there isn't a recognition if you've got 1 or 5 children.
It's no different than the school board of trustees voting system.
Okay.
If you're a parent of a school, you don't get more votes if you've got more kids attending. So, yeah, as a comparison, it's
okay. I know.
So can you have 2 parents?
You can both
voting on
join.
behalf of one?
If you set it up and separated them, it would be hard to tell the difference.
Just good to clarify. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's my point.
Is it Cheryl?
Thanks, Lizzie. Sorry, I'll just put my camera on. Okay, so I am currently the president of my branch committee, and I also instruct at Pony Club. My only child at Pony Club is about to turn 17. I'm at Northern Southland Club, part of Tiana branch, and at our last AGM for Northern Southland, we agreed that we would roll our branches into our Northern Southland Club. So we will be branches, a club without branches. Once this constitution has gone through, our current president, Liz Green, is going to stand down, and I'm going to take up her role. I will continue to instruct at Tiana, and I will instruct at combined rallies of the 3 venues, as you've named them. I'm wondering what happens to me as far as my ability to sit on a committee, be voted in, have voting rights, etc. once my daughter no longer rides at Pony Club.
The same way we have it with a lot of our members at the moment. Let's be honest, most of the parents in there, if somebody's putting their hand up and they like them and they trust them, they'll say, I'll nominate you to carry on and do that job. It is a democratic election. It's a popularity contest. There's no getting around that in a democracy. That you'll just have to say, hey, I'm keen to still carry on. Is somebody able to nominate me?
Right. Okay. Cool. That's right. I think there'll be a lot of people in this situation where their children no longer ride, or either have grown into that next stage or don't want to be at Pony Club anymore, but you want to keep supporting your own club. So, and NZPCA and all of the things that we run.
And nationally, that is a very common situation, particularly amongst our area committees around, that a lot of the members on those area committees are people who have strong ties to Pony Club, but in many cases their kids left Pony Club 15 or 20 years ago.
So it's being nominated by someone who's either the rider 18 to 25 or someone with a child under 18.
Yeah. So if your daughter was still there at 18 years old, you'd probably be asking her to nominate you.
Brilliant. Thanks for the explanation.
Diane.
Hi. So for people like me who, having been a rider and a parent of riders and now no longer have kids riding, currently I have a vote, as I understand it, because I'm being voted in as DC for Southland and as secretary for the area. So I have a vote on both those committees. But if I didn't have those positions, I would not have a vote. Is that correct?
Correct.
Despite the fact that
unless under this one, unless you're a life member of one of those entities under that existing constitution.
Yep. Well, I am a life member of Southland now.
So under the existing constitution and based on the feedback which I'm actually supportive of, will a life member, you'd be able to nominate and vote yourself on there if we keep that life member clause. If you don't have that life membership, then you're correct. You wouldn't have a vote.
And that's only
voting, I can nominate other people for positions.
No, you can't. That's the difference. So if you're not a life member, you cannot nominate anyone for or vote on people getting appointed to the committee.
But I am a life member of Southland, so I could say, for example, nominate Freddie for position of vice president or something.
Yeah. If we keep that life member voting in there, yes.
But I think this is clarified. We need to do a lot more work in mahi around the membership and the voting and clarify it. And I'm sitting exactly where you guys were, because I've been like Cheryl and being the mum and nominated people because I didn't know any different, because somewhere along the lines things have just got a little bit muddied. And so this is just an area that we need to work on and get really crystal clear. And the rationale is because we have had clubs not taken over, I don't want to say it like that, but we have had clubs change direction because people have come in and gone, oh, there's grazing here, I'm going to be an adult, I'm going to get my friend to vote, and we're all going to vote onto the committee, and we're going to do that. And I'm sorry, that has happened, and it's just to safeguard Pony Club and for our purposes. Louise, you've got a question there about assets and dividing assets. Now, I need to be clear, any assets that come from your area stay within your area, and that is the current practice. If there's a club that merges or closes, you come to us and say, we'd like our assets to go here within the club and area, and they get approved by the board, but we need to be clear that the assets stay within Pony Club. So I can't go and give my assets to the cat shelter down the road. Sorry, the Pony Club can't give its assets to the cat shelter down the road. Can't give them to the AMP. And we do know there's some agreements out there that there's shared assets over the time, and we understand that, and we'll work with you on that separately. But generally, if you are closing or merging and you've got assets, you'd come to us and go, okay, I want to distribute our assets here. We'd look at this and go, hang on a minute, I'm just going to pick a name. Give me a name. Anyone's club, just a name.
Sorry, Lizzie, I might clarify the question, the nature of the question a little better, because absolutely, I appreciate that. I don't think anyone's out to go and bequest a cat shelter. But, in terms of you are proposing removing, a layer consistently through the organisation. So if all of those clubs were to be dissolved, and then we've got the new branches, the new clubs, and then the administrative layer, because all of those current clubs will be disestablished at the same time. Is there any direction of consistency of how the dissolved layers assets are to be treated?
So what we are suggesting is that you make those decisions before we get to a dissolving space when you've got a committee. And the suggestions are that for example, we've talked about it consistently. We remove the club layer and there's a bank account there. There's 4 clubs below and there's $1,000 sitting in the bank account. we would say to you, our guidance is those funds should probably go back to your branches. Now, we're not going to say you should give $500 here, $100 here. What we are going to say is you need to consider a way that is fair and equitable to your members, and it should be in proportion to how the funds have arrived. So we have had people go, oh, we'll probably use our last 2 years average members and then just divide it by that, and that's the proportion that goes out. We've had other ones go, well, these are the guys, they're the only ones that paid the invoice, so they may as well get their money back, and the other branch that didn't pay its invoice gets nothing. But that's a decision that we're suggesting that your committee makes before we get through, or as part of this whole, right, if we cease to exist, we're going to have this cash. How do we get this back to our members in a way that makes sure it's useful to our members? Easy with cash, bit harder when you say we've got a jump trailer and there's jump trailer sitting here and it's owned by the club and we've got 4 branches and they're actually an hour and a half to 2 hours away, so sharing it becomes difficult. So that's one where you just need to discuss and go logically and fairly, where would it best sit? When we'll absolutely help with guidance on a case-by-case basis, but our key one is, and we think by and large our clubs and branches get along well enough that they should be able to be fair and reasonable in these distributions. The money goes back to the members and it should go back in a fair and reasonable manner. Well, not to the members, to the clubs, the branches, and in a fair and reasonable manner.
I'd like to even extend there. We've even had discussions, and it might be relevant to you, that if a whole club or something went, we've got a current club that closed recently, and they gave money to the area, but they said that money was to be used for riders that came from that location. So it was to be looked after to support those riders for their travel in the future. It was basically as a trustee within the area's money, and I guess it's up to the area if they'd want to do that or not. Games equipment, same thing. You decide who's going to look after it or host it. That would be for your guys to discuss. Okay, sorry, my screen has given up the ghost with so many people on the internet tonight.
Thank you, Megan, for the clarification on that one. Recognising the time at 9:30. Thank you very much, everyone. It's been a very robust discussion. I can't reiterate strongly enough how much we want your feedback back on this.
Absolutely.
I've put up a very vociferous discussion for the position. That doesn't mean it's the position I have. It just means that I was doing the counter argument on here. We want to go with whichever way makes our members' lives easier. That is the purpose of this whole process. We have rushed it and we are pushing it through because we do have a tight time frame, but we're also doing it because what we have noticed is when we have delayed these, it has never eventuated. As Lizzie said at the start, in 2011, we were going to go and change our structure and we were going to get onto it. And in 2025, we haven't actually done it. So we've decided we'll go out. If the appetite is not there, that will be what it will be. And we will quite happily move on and work forward with it. So please give us feedback, give us ideas, think very, very carefully and fulsomely about what layers need an incorporated society and what layers can be managed elsewhere. And consider how your organisation can set itself up, because what we want to do for the Pony Club is set ourselves up in a structure for the future. And so just think about all of those, and if we come back to the same result, great, then we're in a situation where we've got something that can work into the future. that's what we're looking for to get from you guys is that feedback. So thank you again, everyone, for your positions tonight and for your engagement. It's been very, very robust, which is great.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. I look forward to seeing you all at Coaches Conference as well. Please do those surveys. Please come armed with all of your questions as well and more questions. And thanks so much for joining us.
Sure. Thank you.
Bye.
You're
Thanks,
welcome.
everyone.
And well done. You're
Thank you.
all doing a great job. You're fantastic.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks,
See you
Lizzie.
later.
Thanks, Todd.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. See you later.
See you later. Bye. 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 Bye.
Thanks, everyone. See ya. Excellent. Stop.